Hi everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author, and today we're going to be talking about keeping track of characters in a series. See, I'm often asked loads of questions, usually along the lines of how do you keep track of characters, and what can I do to keep track of characters, and do you do character sheets, and how much information do I need to give on a character, how much do I need to work out before they are a character, and what happens if they're just a one-time character, do I need to keep track of them too? So I'm going to go through those and basically give you a few pointers about what I do to keep track of characters in my series. Number one, how do I keep track? All the note cards. I literally use note cards and I write down everything that I can think of about the character. So I'll start with creating the main characters, like the protagonist, any family because I write young adult, stuff like that, their friends and stuff, and I'll basically add characters details to those note cards and just start with a small pile and the pile builds. I add characters as they appear in the book, so like if I've got a new character appearing and I don't necessarily know they were going to be appearing, then I will then add them and get a note card and start afresh and write down everything about them as well. This doesn't work for everybody, but you should have an idea of every major character and some minor ones too, like the friends of the protagonist and the like. You should have some idea of who they are, what they look like, what their goal is in the book, and all the rest of it. You can also use apps like a writing program like Scrivener. I know that I've never used it, but I know that people have talked about how easy it is to create character profiles, and you can use something like that to organise and keep track of who's who and what they look like and what their goal is and what they're even in the book to do. Number two, what can I do to keep track? File the note cards together. I use a bulldog clip, but you can use pretty much anything that keeps them together. I organise them so that the most used characters are near the top of the pile, but you can do alphabetically or you can do whichever organisation makes sense to you. You can use different coloured note cards for different types of characters and have them all grouped together. If you're writing a long series, it might be better to use a note card box or a Word file. I found boxes in alphabetical order worked best for the Dying Thought series, but that was towards the end when the character pile was about that big, but there wasn't a bulldog clip big enough to hold it all together. And make sure that every time you create a character they get a note card, even if you don't plan on using them again, because you never know when you'll have to reference back to them. And that has bitten me in the arse before when I thought, oh, I don't need to write anything about this character because I'll never talk of them again. Oh wait, now I'm talking about them again. So yeah. Number three, do I use character sheets? I don't. In the meaning that I don't put a lot of info on my note cards. I put the bare minimum. I'll go with description, relationship to protagonist or other characters, and what their goal is. But that said, you can do character sheets and some people find them really helpful. And even though I go for the bare minimum, that doesn't mean that you have to go for the bare minimum. That's just what works for me. I do it with every character that I use, but I also do it with every book I write. Even if it's not a series, they'll have a character card wadge that I carry around with me. And depending on the series depends on how much detail I put on. Like for Lights Out trilogy, I'm putting on a lot more detail because there is a lot more detail needed than I would have done for Dying Thoughts or I would have done for Destination Unknown or something else like that, or one I've written recently. So it all really depends in what the goal of what you want to know about your characters. For me, I want to know what they look like, I want to know what their relation is to the protagonist, and I want to know what their goal is in the book. And I want to know that all at just a glance. Number four, how much information do I need on characters? That is completely up to you. It also depends on the genre of your book and the point of the character. Like if you want as much as you can on your protagonist, but if they're a minor character who doesn't even speak, probably not that much. I generally go for description and what they're there to achieve at the bare minimum, but I have included with main characters, I'll include a synopsis of what happens in each book, because that way then I can go back and go, oh, that's what happens to them then, even though I wrote the book so I already remember, but it's just a reference point for me. It also means that I can add in what time of the year it was, depending on what kind of book I'm writing. The Dying Thought series was written over 15 years, but it took place over about 4. So I had to make sure that I was aware of what kind of time of year it was in each book, so that I didn't then suddenly shoot them forward 6 years and ruin the whole continuity. So yeah, you've got to work out what you want to achieve with the characters, and you've got to work out what works for you, and then from there you can work out what's too much and what's too little. And number 5, what if they're a one-time character? In the beginning of the Dying Thought series, I didn't keep track of any characters except maybe Tara, her dad, and Kaelin. That was about it. I was a newbie. And it bit me in the arse. It bit me in the arse like majorly. And then I switched to having just sheets of paper that would just, I'd add a new character every time. And that was fine until, because I'd used all the multicoloured ink and all the rest of it to make it look pretty. And that worked until the cat spilled water all over it and the ink ran everywhere. And then I decided to switch to note cards with biro, because you can't wash off biro. So yeah. When writing a long series or even a trilogy, there will always be callbacks to previous characters at some point. Even characters that you think of at the time are just one line, didn't say anything, therefore do not matter. You gotta go back to them at some point. It's just sod's law. I found the easiest way to keep continuity was to make a note card for every character. If they had a name, they had a note card. That said, there are some characters who are just delivering one line or whatnot and don't even get a name. In that case, I didn't give them a note card. As I said, as you work, you will find out what works best for you. My advice basically is, in the grand scheme of things, is to start overdoing it so that if need be you can cut back, because if you underdo it then it's going to really bugger you up, especially if, like I said, you're 3-4 books in and you realise that one-time character you spoke about in the first book, vaguely in whichever chapter it was, is mentioned and you can't remember their name. It really isn't a good place to be. So yeah, that's what works for me, and that's how I keep track of characters in a series, but obviously what works for you is different, and maybe what works for me works for you too, so awesome. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to get in touch with me, you can do so by leaving a comment down below. If you want to contact me, you can do so on Facebook or Tumblr or Goodreads or Twitter. You can check out my books on Amazon, and they're available in ebook and paperback format, and you can pre-order the Dying Thoughts 5th Secret book on Kindle. It is out on May 15th, and don't forget to check out the Darker Side of Fiction 2017 event in October, where I will be signing books, all the links to which are listed below. Thanks for watching. Bye.